They say the cold numbs you, that it makes the pain stop. Bullshit. I bet they never watched something crawling out of the snowstorm. It started as a stupid winter hiking trip. Jake's idea, of course. Disconnect from the world, he said, like I needed to freeze my ass off for that. Jake was one of those guys who thought surviving frostbite was a personality trait, a walking cliche of flannel and overconfidence. The first 2 days were fine, even fun. Clear skies, crisp air, postcard-worthy views. But by day 3, the novelty had worn off. The snow had gone from Instagram-worthy to where the fuck is the trail, and when the blizzard hit, we were screwed. Visibility was shot. Couldn't see 5 feet in front of us. The wind clawed at our faces like it had a grudge. We were just 2 idiots trudging through endless white, trying to make it back to the cabin before we froze solid. Jake, naturally, was still full of bad ideas.
I think I saw a shortcut earlier.
He yelled over the storm, pointing into the void. Shortcut to what? Hypothermia? I shot back, but he'd already started walking. Somewhere around mile 6, Jake wandered off. Hold up, I yelled, but the wind swallowed my voice. 1 minute he was there, the next, gone. Just a swirl of snow where he'd been standing. At first I thought he was messing with me. Jake loved pulling pranks, but after 10 minutes of yelling his name, panic crawled up my back like spiders. My throat was raw, my voice barely carrying in the storm.
Jake!
I screamed again. Nothing. Just the relentless howl of the wind. I told myself to calm down, to think. Jake wasn't dumb enough to get lost, right? I tried to retrace our steps, but everything looked the same, white on white, with no landmarks to guide me. That's when I saw it. A figure, standing in the distance, barely visible through the blizzard. At first I thought it was Jake, but something wasn't right. The way it stood, too rigid, like a mannequin abandoned in the snow. It didn't move, just stood there, eerily still, waiting. Jake, I let out, squinting against the wind. No answer. I moved closer, my boots crunching on ice, heart pounding. The figure moved its head, studying me. The movement so slight I would have missed it if it wasn't for the rest of him being so still. Hey, you okay? I yelled again, louder this time. Still no response. But then its head snapped to the side, unnaturally fast, like a broken doll coming to life. I froze. The storm howled around us, but in that moment, all I could hear was the sound of my own breathing. Shallow, rapid. The figure took a single step forward, and my gut screamed at me to run, but my feet felt bolted to the ground. I stood there. I don't know why. I guess I was still convincing myself it was Jake. That's when I saw its face, or what was left of it. 2 pinpoints of light where its eyes should be, and its mouth. Holy fuck. Its mouth was split wide open, stretched impossibly far, like its cheeks had been torn apart and held open by rusty hooks. We stood like that and time slowed. Enough for me to wish to sweet fuck all to please. Let this be Jake messing with me. But I knew better. The thing, the meat sack with Jake's face, smiled. Its voice came out between ripped skin that flapped in the wind. The worst part, the absolute brain-frying worst part, is that it sounded almost like me. Jake? It said back. That's when I almost lost it, ass sauce and all. My stomach dropped. Then it moved toward me, fast. You see, in the safety of gaslighting yourself with scenarios you'd think you'd never be in, you say real dumb shit like, if I was ever in a crazy situation, I'd go nuts, smash that other thing before it smashed me. In real life, shit don't work like that. In the middle of a blizzard, where there is space between you and some crazed fuck, with dark forest all around you, you run. You run like your ass is on fire. So I bolted, legs burning, lungs screaming for air. The cabin wasn't far, just a few 100 yards, but it felt like miles. The wind roared louder, almost like it was alive. Behind me, I heard it laugh, a shrill, piercing sound that made my ears bleed. My legs felt like lead, and my vision blurred, but adrenaline kept me moving. I told myself not to look back, just keep running, keep moving, go, go, go. Then bam, my shoulder clipped a branch and I stumbled. Not enough to stop me, but enough to spin me just enough so that I glimpsed it. It was there, coming on all fours just a few feet away. Its limbs were too long, joints bending the wrong way as it crawled so incredibly fast towards me. That's when I screamed. I hit those high notes I never thought possible, flailing to get my footing. I swung my backpack, throwing it at the thing. It didn't even flinch. The cabin appeared in the distance, a dark blur against the white chaos. I pushed myself harder, ignoring the burning in my legs, the sharp pain in my chest. The thing was right behind me. I could feel it. When I finally reached the cabin, I slammed the door shut behind me, locked it, and ran to the kitchen. My breath came out in ragged gasps, clouds of white in the freezing air. The thing pounded on the door, its laughter echoing like a twisted lullaby. All the while I grabbed the biggest knives I could find. "Let me in," it whispered. The voice was soft now, almost pleading. "We can keep each other warm," it cooed, mockingly sweet, like we were just two friends out for some good times. It pounded on the door, the sound vibrating through the cabin. The walls seemed thinner than I remembered. I was sure any minute it would burst through the door or break open a window. I put my back to a corner where I had the view of the entire cabin. I had a butcher knife and cleaver in each hand, white-knuckling those bitches so hard my fingers started to cramp. I had nothing but an adrenaline-fueled fright and time to think of all the ways this thing was going to get in. And that's where I stayed, in a dark corner of a cabin, in the middle of a blizzard with a nightmare circling outside. Eventually the pounding stopped, but I didn't move. Hours passed. The pleading whispers turned to screams, then silence. When the sun finally rose, the storm had passed, leaving an eerie calm. By morning, the wind had died down, and sunlight filtered through the frost-covered windows. I hesitated before opening the door, dread pooling in my stomach, half hoping it had all been a nightmare. It wasn't. Jake was there, frozen solid, his face twisted into that same horrific grin. His eyes were wide open, unseeing, his mouth stretched as if he had been laughing or screaming. I backed away. The laughter echoed in my ears long after I was alone. The image of Jake's face burned into my mind. I don't hike anymore. Hell, I don't even leave the house when it snows, because I know it's still out there, waiting. And next time, I might not make it back.